Ladies and gentlemen, the start has been given, so the athletes are already on course. In maybe a little more than an hour, we'll have
Rene Kalmer there in the centre. Gemma Steele moving alongside the South African, the British athlete, European cross-country bronze medalist, much improved this year. Just on the right, a picture there with the shades. Camera's focusing in on Rene Kalmer, a 2:29 marathon runner. She was only 35th in the Olympic marathon earlier this year, and she's got many credentials to say she could have gone better than that, so I wonder whether she will be fancying getting in on the mix here. Long way to go though for these women. Just the very early stages. It's quite a relief actually to get going in a distance race, whatever your standard, whether it's a first attempt at a marathon or a half or a 10k or you're going for a personal best. Once you've done all the training, the last few minutes before the race begins can be a little bit torturous, so quite nice, I would imagine, for these women to be underway and just settling into their early race rhythm. Shalane Flanagan just making her presence felt at the front, tracking the Kenyans, Chirono and Arusi. Arusi got the bronze in Nanning. She just had her heels clipped by Flanagan there, just a tiny little glimpse over the shoulder. There is always a danger of that when they're bunched so tightly together in the very early stages of a distance race, so Flanagan perhaps just easing back and giving Arusi another half yard just to make sure there are no unforeseen trips. One or two already just drifting off the back of this pace, and that's understandable. There are some varying standards in this race within the international parameters, but everyone we would expect to be there looking comfortable is in pole position. In fact, some really talented women have won this event on more than one occasion. There are a trio of hat-trick holders, if you like. Tegla Larupe won this crown in 97, 98, 99, and Great Britain's Paula Radcliffe, not so lucky with her Olympic marathon exploits, but has done fabulously in this event. She won it in 2000, 2001 and 2003, and then Lorna Kiplagat, the Kenyan who now represents the Netherlands, courtesy of her marriage to a Dutchman. She was victorious in 2006, 2007 and 2008. So which of these women will be adding their name to a rich list of champions in the 20-year history of this event? Started way back in 1992. It was Great Britain's Liz McColgan who won the inaugural title. Ilana Meyer has also taken this crown in 1994. Bahani Adere, the world 10,000 metre champion in 2003. She took gold the year before her track title. So some really, really great names have won this crown. Look at that. Kenyans to the right, Kiplagat and Chirono, and to the left with Arusi. And maybe just the first little hint of team tactics here from the Kenyans. And as we said, one or two of these athletes have just been pushed out the back and maybe realised that this pace is a little too intense for them at this stage and they've got to run their own race. Rene Kalmer's over on the left-hand side. Just a reminder of the Kenyan quintet. Kiplagat on the right, fourth fastest in the world this year. 67.07 she ran when she won Rio back in August. So comfortable and just so economical with that stride. The club runners among us watching would just love to make it look that easy. But we can't, which is why these athletes are out there showing us how it's done. Kahenya is also there, won the Paris half marathon this year. Big personal best, went under 68 minutes. So everywhere you look in that Kenyan team, it is absolutely top quality. Meseret Hailu in the green, just behind the first line of runners, a fairly tall figure. 2:27 in the Prague marathon, and she's right in there in the mix. So too Shalane Flanagan. And the Kenyans have broken what was quite a sizable field up here. And it's quite interesting when you compare the statistics of how the men's and women's races have unfolded in the 19-year history of this event. The men's races have traditionally been very, very close. But the women's race, well, they've only had 5 of the 19 editions where the winning margin was less than 10 seconds. So although there are obviously plenty of athletes still in contention, it isn't as big a group now as it was 2 or 3 minutes ago. So the Kenyans have clearly decided that they want to make sure that they are the ones in control of this early pace, and therefore they should have a more than fair chance of dictating when the breakaways will come and of course who will be in them. So all 5 of the Kenyans right across the front. Good run by Rene Kalmer here at this stage. Gemma Steele and Carol Jones of Great Britain in that second group. And there's Kato just going through shot, the Japanese athlete, 15th in the world junior cross a couple of years ago. So she's a high quality performer. But it's still Kiplagat on the right-hand side. And look at her feet, the way she hits the ground. She's so light on her feet. It's fantastic to watch. And you compare that to a slightly more laboursome gait that you see from some of the other athletes, who nonetheless are international class. But Pascalia Kiplagat is literally just floating along the road at the front. So we'll be looking to get the first 5K split in around about 5 minutes or so. I wonder what chat there was among the Kenyan team before the race began as to how they were going to plot their tactics and employ their race. Wow, look at this. Well, we sort of said Kiplagat was looking nice and easy, and something of nothing, of course, at this early stage, but she's got herself 5 meters on the rest of the group, and if nothing else, it's a declaration of how confident she's clearly feeling in these very, very early stages. Just deciding that she wants to have the road to herself. 5 wins in South America this year, undefeated. So she really is arriving here with tremendous form. And it's unusual actually to see somebody going off the front with the amount of experience that she's got. So she clearly is feeling pretty good. Keep an eye on that gap and just see if it grows and whether she goes for an early pull away. Some of the other athletes just working together in small groups to try and keep their cadence and their momentum. Only about 4 seconds then, the difference, just having a look as they cross that double centre line between Kiplagat and the rest of the lead group. But a confident start from the young woman. Renee Kalmer still plugging away there. As they continue coming round that sharp turn. Ethiopian lineup is quality as well, as we've said already. Now, has she just allowed the rest to drift back towards her? I think possibly. Sometimes those head-on shots can be a little deceptive, but yes, she's got some company, and perhaps it may well have been something as simple as making sure she got to a drink station unimpeded by the rest of the group. But Kiplagat is still leading. Chiromai, the oldest of the Kenyan team, deciding to give chase to her younger, very confident compatriot. The 3 Kenyans in that chase group. Christine Kalmer just going through shot on the right-hand side. Here comes Rui. But at the front, how many times have we seen this in a global distance race in men's and female athletics? Kenyans leading and the Ethiopian contingent right behind. Tadese, who was 4th in Nanning 2 years ago, picking up an early drink. Sensible move by the Ethiopian. People think sometimes that because of the strength of East African distance running that they are bulletproof and impervious to the normal constraints of dehydration and heat fatigue. They are fantastic athletes, but definitely respecting the conditions here, of course. Still Kiplagat chugging along with Chiromai in second. Kavarna is in 3rd place, and the Ethiopians are still right there. So 3 Kenyans and 3 Ethiopians, a lead group of 6. Kiplagat still looks very easy. Holds those arms up quite high, doesn't she? Now just drifting over towards the right-hand side of your picture. More a sort of side-to-side movement than forwards and backwards. But the legs and the cadence, so easy. Great to watch. So a lead group of 6. Kavarna and Chirono now just going through the line. Shalane Flanagan going well, looking strong, but behind this group. So coming back up towards the start line. So 1 lap completed, 3 more to go. 16:13, so it's around about ish 68.5 minute pace at the moment. So it's a solid start, but within the comfort zone of these women. And still Kiplagat pushing the pace on. So Kiplagat, Kavarna and Lydia Chiromai in that lead group for the Kenyans. Tadese, Hailu and Ethiopian are the 3 Ethiopians in the mix. Ethiopian, haven't said much about her, running just towards the back on the right-hand side. 3rd in the World Junior Cross Country 4 years ago. She's a 2:34 marathon runner, so by no means the fastest marathon runner that her country has produced in recent years, but has a solid pedigree. Tadese at the back there is 4th in Nanning. And Meseret Hailu ran a 71-minute half marathon earlier this year. That was back in January. So she's at the moment outperforming her personal best time. Still a long way to go. Gemma Steele running in the centre of your picture there, and it's got Arusi for company, and that's unusual because Arusi was 3rd in Nanning, 2nd in the Paris half marathon this year, so not all the Kenyans are having it their own way here today. Gemma Steele went through in 16th place after 5k. Shalane Flanagan, incidentally, is lying in 10th place, and she was looking fairly strong. And if you were watching, there she is, just coming through shot there with Ito, the Japanese athlete. Carol Jones trying to close them down. Flanagan certainly has a tactic of coming through the field, which is what she did when she got the bronze in the World Cross last year. But that is a sizable gap for these early stages. Of course, a lot can happen during a half marathon, but that lead 6 are definitely creating a decent looking advantage between themselves and the rest of the field. And once again, Kiplagat quite happy, or quite insistent, however you want to look at it, to get out the front and just have a little bit of clean air around her. And at the moment, the other 5 in this race are not in the slightest bit interested in sharing the pace-making duties, if you like. And a sizable gap, as we said. Hard to judge with the head-on angle. Well, so many great Kenyan women have been victorious. Tegla Larupe, if you missed the start of our programme, she won 3 titles back in the 90s. Then Lorna Kiplagat, under the flag of the Netherlands, but Kenyan born and raised nonetheless. Mary Kaitani, the current world record holder, she was victorious in 2009, and then Florence Kiplagat in 2010. A fabulous win in what was really hot, sticky, humid conditions in Nanning. It was a really, really tough race for the men and the women out there. So, Pascalia Kipkoech are trying to add her name to a rich list of Kenyan women who have come out on top in this prestigious race and this prestigious event, celebrating its 20th anniversary this year, and in some fine style. Now, the interesting thing about having 6 in this group, again, we are still, of course, in the very early stages of this race, is that it's 3 to score in the team competition, and we have 3 Kenyans and 3 Ethiopians. So it is going to be interesting to see how that team dynamic unfolds over the next 50 minutes or so. It's judged on the times added together for the 3 leading contenders from each nation. So Kipkoech is extending that lead just a little bit. Chiroma in second, and it's Kahenya off the back of that lead group now. It's only a couple of metres, but I wonder whether Pauline Kahenya is just struggling a tiny bit running in the green shoes. We'll perhaps get a better indication as to how close she is to the 4 athletes behind Kipkoech at the moment. But interesting developments here. It's not really a decisive break from Kipkoech, is it? But she's absolutely determined that this is her race to boss here in these early middle stages of the race. And from that angle, it looks as though Kahenya is definitely off the back a little bit. So, the pace being pushed here by Kipkoech is making an impact on everyone, including some of her compatriots. Big group running together there, all chasing Pascalia Kipkoech. Kahenya's now off the back of the pace. Adriana Nelson on the left of the picture, just going through there, a Romanian now representing the United States. She was second in the Chicago Marathon in 2007, so some real quality performers being cast aside here by Pascalia Kipkoech. Tadese now up into second place, the Ethiopian, 7th in the world cross. So she's got a pretty decent track record. Lovely morning here on the coastal town of Kavarna. Not too many out on the streets yet. Not quite 10 o'clock in the morning here. So Kahenya's been off that group, and a little bit of a gap to Hailu down in 5th place. So 6 is becoming 4 here, and Kipkoech is certainly beginning to shake off quality athletes who have been thus far right behind her. Lydia Chiromai moving past her Ethiopian rival and just trying to take closer order of Kiplagat, and in fact she's now into the lead with Tadese and Etia also in that group. So Hailu has been dropped from this pace. So we have Chiromai, Kiplagat, Tadese and Etia. Hailu trying to hang on. So will the medals come from these four athletes? 2 from Ethiopia and 2 from Kenya. It is looking that way at the moment. You can see from the heat haze that the temperature is definitely rising here. Our commentary position's in the shade right next to the finish line, but out in the sun it is definitely getting warmer. Carol Jones, one of the British trio, set a personal best of 32.31 over 10k last month. So Kiplagat, for now, is back with the other 3, and those early darts off the front have, for the time being, been brought to a halt. Tadese rounds first, then Kiplagat. Good runners in this group, including Sukihara, 15th in Daegu last year at the 10,000 metres. Had a glimpse of the Bulgarians there as well. The local crowd will be very much enjoying seeing them in action, or will be willing them to move a few places further up towards the leaders. Mockenhaupt here, coming up to the turn point, and I saw Shalane Flanagan just behind her. 2 really quality performers. Mockenhaupt is a 2:26 marathon runner, and she has Shalane Flanagan of the United States right behind her. So some interesting battles going on all the way through this field, and none more intense than the rivalry, the pride and the respect that exists between the Kenyan and Ethiopian quartet running here. Tamset of Australia, former world junior mountain running champion. There are a few mountain runners in this race actually. I was looking over the stats last night. Well, there are no steep inclines to conquer here, just a world-class field. Ever so slightly downhill on this section, so we'll keep our eye on the clock. Remember, they went through 5k in 16:13, which is around about 68.5 pace. So coming up in old-fashioned terms to 6 miles, not too far off halfway. Renee Kalmer, she's got Arusi behind her, and it doesn't look as though Arusi, the Kenyan, will be able to replicate her fabulous bronze medal in China from 2 years ago. Having a tougher day here in Europe. Now, do they share the drink? This is interesting. Chiromai and Tadese? Yes, they do. How nice is that to see? That is fantastic. Great rivalry between these two nations, but Tadese and Chiromai sharing the drinks bottle there. And it was interesting watching that. I wasn't sure at one stage whether Tadese would say, yeah, okay, I can't quite understand you there, I'm throwing this one away. But that was great to see. So they're about to turn the corner into what will be the finishing burst into the title for one of these four women. But that's still a fair way to go. Actually, that's quite interesting because Kenya and Hailu have managed to catch up, or certainly significantly close the gap that was in place between themselves and the lead four. So I just wonder whether Kiplagat has slowed the pace a little bit. They are still behind Kenya and Hailu, but only by about 5 meters. So have the hot, sticky conditions just taken the sting out of Kiplagat's early pace? There are the chase two, and the gap back to them was definitely bigger a few moments ago than it is now. So coming up to the line that will indicate 10K. So slightly quicker, in fact, 16:07 for the second 10K. So they went through in 32:20, inside 68.5 minute pace. So it's solid, and you suspect there is a break coming at some stage soon, but who will it be from? So a big gap. These lead six have really done some damage on the rest of the field. Just waiting for the next athlete. Tanaka coming across the line, swiftly followed by Ito. And then Carol Jones and Gemma Steele running really well, the two British women. So we've got two Japanese and two British women going well. Mockenhout has come through as well. Chirono struggling, and Shalane Flanagan just coming through the line. So the battle for the bronze medal in the team competition really warming up nicely. But the lead six have a sizable advantage on the rest of the field. Kiplagat then still in front, still setting the agenda. Let's put the times into some sort of context for you. Her personal best is 67:07, and she's running at the moment about a minute 15, minute 25 outside that. So in theory, although this is still a world-class pace and a really good performance, she should, if she's in the same sort of form that took her to that great time in Rio 2 months ago, she should be feeling relatively comfortable here. But she still has world-class company in the form of her compatriot Lydia Chiromai and the Ethiopians. And all credit to Kenya and Hailu, for getting back into the mix. Now there's the team competition. As it stands, it would be Kenya, followed by Ethiopia, with Japan in third and Great Britain in fourth place. But of course it's basically even Stevens, isn't it, as far as the team competition is concerned, between the Kenyans and the Ethiopians, as all 6 of them are together at the moment. But that battle for the third team medal is really, really close. Japan just edging Great Britain at the moment. Japan have a great tradition in this event. There we are, you see Tanaka and Ito on the right of your picture, and then Gemma Steele and Carol Jones. So it's all down to the third scoring Japanese athlete and the third scoring British athlete. So a lot still to play for here on the streets of Kavarna, and not just right at the front. So who is going to make the first break? All 6 now firmly back together. And still it's Kiplagat. Pretty even pacing on the first 2 5K loops. But that will change at some stage. Good to see a few more spectators gracing the course. It is a very small town, so news might be filtering around that the race is beginning to hot up a little bit, along with the weather. So who will be the first to make the break? And when will that come? Now, is this a slight little injection once again by Kiplagat? They were running very bunched just a moment or two ago, and Kenya and Hailu had done brilliantly to come back into the mix. But once again, a few little creaks and groans are going on in some of the members of that group. And it looks as though Hailu has just drifted off the back of that lead 4. And so too Kenya. And in fact, Chiromai, for the first time, has been away from the very front of the field. The gaps are not huge, of course. So this is the heart of the battle for the third team position, with the 2 Japanese in 7th and 8th and the British girls in 9th and 10th. But at the front, Kiplagat maybe just putting in a little bit of a dig here, just a little bit of an experimental surge to see what response she gets from the other 5 women behind her. And once again, Kavarna has been taken off the back along with Hailu, and as I said, for the first time, Lydia Chiromai just allowing a couple of meters to creep between her and the lead 3. And in fact, that's more than a couple of meters, isn't it? Sometimes a bit tricky to tell from the head-on angle. Kavarna this time has definitely been dropped. And where we had 6, now we definitely have a lead trio. So the 2 Ethiopians, Ethiopian and Tadese, doing really well here. Tracking Kiplagat, quite happy for her to do the work. Tanaka and Ito in 7th and 8th, running really well together, but so too are Gemma Steele and Carol Jones. And in their context, it comes down to where their 3rd scoring athletes are. And the last checkpoint we had, Miyauchi of Japan was in 15th and Susan Partridge of Great Britain was in 25th. So all still to play for, but every second that Partridge can close down on Miyauchi would really help get the British trio in contention for that 3rd spot, which is currently being occupied by the Japanese, who have such a fabulous tradition in distance running, and in this event in particular. Japanese have taken 5 of the last team bronze medals. Sorry, 5 of the last 6. And they're in contention for the podium once again, as gold and silver look certain at this stage to be carved up between Kenya and Ethiopia, but which way round will it be? Well, how many lives has Meseret Hailu got? She drifts off the back and she's once again in contention, so either she found an extra level or Kiplagat allowed the pace just to drop a fraction, as we have seen a little bit of a pattern in this race. So it looks as though the only one who has been dropped definitively from this group is Kavarna. And still, Tanaka and Ito pour on the pressure as Gemma Steele and Carol Jones desperately try and close that gap. Good runs by all 4 of those women, actually, to be inside the top 10. So Ethiopian, Hailu and Tadese, alongside Kiplagat and Chiromai. Ito was 22nd in Daegu last year. Tanaka's in really good form, the other Japanese athlete up in the mix for them at the moment. So too Gemma Steele and Carol Jones. Kavarna just coming round there. And what a fascinating race this has been. And just when 1 or 2 of the 6 have looked as though they've been dropped off the back, they've managed to come into contention once more. And wonder whether there's a little glimpse across from a few of these leaders, just running now in the opposite direction to the rest of the field, going up to the turn point that they have successfully negotiated. Gemma Steele trying to take the initiative and close the gap down on Ito and Tanaka. And Kenya's in a really lonely place here, and it wouldn't surprise me actually if the battle between the Japanese and British athletes may well end up reeling Kenya in. And remember, the significance of Kenya is that she is the third scoring Kenyan. So at the moment, the team title would be going by way of Ethiopia, and that would only be the third time they took the team honours in 2004 and 2008. The Kenyan women were going for 3 in a row. Rene Kalmer maybe just struggling a little tiny bit now. They're still looking at the gap there between the Japanese duo and the British pair. And some of the dignitaries from the Bulgarian Athletic Federation taking close interest here. And you could see the sweat just beginning to form across the shoulders of the Japanese athletes who, on home soil at least, are used to running in humid conditions. It's getting tough out there as we get towards the last quarter of this race. So a little gap developing there, perhaps just indicative of a few seconds required at the drink station. I thought I saw Tadese in second place there, having a bite on perhaps a banana. It's unusual to see athletes taking food on board in a half marathon, but Tadese respecting the context and the conditions and making sure her body's got everything she needs to try and mount a challenge for this World Half Marathon title. Not just individually, but of course for that all-important team competition as well. So 6 became 4, became 6, became 4, and now we have 5, but a little bit of a surge once again from Kiplagat, who has been the leader all the way through this race. Tadese, much taller of the two at the front, just tracking the diminutive Kenyan. And for the first time, Etea is struggling. So we have Kiplagat, Tadese, Chiromai, Hailu, and then just a couple of seconds to Etea. So is she beginning to feel the effects of the pace? And as they come round to 15k, we will be watching this split with interest. I think it's been fairly consistent once again, this pace. This time they hear the bell. Yeah, 16:31. They have slowed slightly. So they're still on course for around about 68.5 minutes. But now we get to the point where we'll see somebody definitely make a breakaway. Not all of these athletes will want it to come down to a sprint finish. Tanaka and Ito. Coming up now to the line, and then they've got that little extra loop before they go through the 15k split. Gemma Steele has got ahead of Carol Jones, desperately trying to put the Japanese team under some pressure and stay in the hunt for that team bronze. So out onto the last lap then. Etea has been dropped, so 5 has become 4. as the two Japanese athletes come through the 15K checklist. Outside 70 minutes at the moment, but running side by side, and that isn't the case with the British duo because Gemma Steele has got away from Carol Jones. So Ito and Tanaka desperately trying to work together, close that gap down, maybe pick off Kahenya, who's running in no man's land. So Kiplagat, Tadese, Chiromai, Hailu has come through her bad patches and managed to bounce back. It looks as though, just from watching the race with the naked eye, that the Japanese are beginning to put a stranglehold on that third place in the team competition. Susan Partridge is coming up towards the bell, but one or two Japanese athletes have already gone through to join Tanaka and Ito on that last lap. Ataya just needs to keep focusing here. She's on course for a good time. She's a 2:34 marathon runner, so this would be a good performance for her. But leading all the way through Kiplagat. Tanaka and Ito in perfect harmony there. So at what stage will someone decide that they don't want this to come down to a burn-up at the finish? And if that is the case, they will have to go for a break. We're watching Ataya. She's in 5th place. Kiplagat on a 5-run unbeaten stretch, going back all the way through this year in South America. Tadese, 4th in Nanning 2 years ago in the brutal conditions of China. A 2:23 marathon runner. Lydia Chiromai won the World Junior Cross Country title way back in 1991 at the age of just 13. She picked up a silver in the World Half back in 2004. Is she in line for another position on the podium? And Meseret Hailu, 3rd in the Prague Marathon earlier this year with 2:27. She's been dropped by the lead group but managed to work her way back into contention, which shows brilliant mental strength as well as physical reserves. These four out front with a long hot road between them and an illustrious place in IAAF World Championship history. That was Kahenya. Just going round the corner. So it would be team gold for Ethiopia, as long as Ataya manages to keep going and stay out front ahead of Kahenya. Gives you an indication as to how hot it is out there for these lead women. And when the men's race gets underway, it will be even warmer, of course. And that one features Mr. Half Marathon himself, Zerzane Tadese, the Eritrean, up against Eliud Kipchoge. For so long a dominant force on the track over 5,000 metre running, now turning his attention to the road and doing so with some aplomb, with a 59.25 debut in the Lille Half Marathon last month in France. So all sorts of drama in store in the men's race, and in the women's race, a little bit of a move there. Now that could be significant. Lydia Chiromai had been content to watch Kiplagat and Tadese out front. She was in third place, but the veteran Kenyan has decided that she wants to set the tone here in these closing stages. Now maybe it's something of nothing, or maybe she's decided that she can't afford for this race to go down to a sprint finish, perhaps feeling that she doesn't quite have the explosive power still in her legs to make an impact and ensure she gets on the individual podium. All four of these women will finish their day in Kavarna, barring a disaster or a dropout, with a fabulous World Championship medal. That, of course, will come from the team competition, when it will be gold or silver, barring, as I said, a disaster. But they want to make sure they also get on the podium on the individual race as well. But 4 into 3, as we know, doesn't go, and one of them will be disappointed. Ito and Tanaka, 7th and 8th place. Looking back down the field with Gemma Steele in pursuit, Carol Jones as well. But the Japanese are in control of this team competition for bronze, if you like, at the moment, courtesy of their other athletes being ahead of Great Britain's third scorer, Susan Partridge, at the moment. That's a slightly better indication as to what the gap is between the Japanese duo and the British pair. Those head-on angles can be slightly deceptive, but good runs nonetheless from all 4 of those athletes to be inside the top 10 here in a prestigious race coming at the end of a very long, tough season. And still all 4 of these athletes are locked together. Kiplagat at the front, the smallest of the 4 figures. Then Tadese, 4th place 2 years ago. Chiromai got a silver way back when in 04. And Meseret Hailu, arguably the least experienced of the quartet up here, but she's in contention for a World Half Marathon medal. And Chiromai once again just taking up the reins here. But eventually somebody will have to go here, either off the front or the back. Such a fascinating stage of any distance race. And there is a small group. Kenya just trying to grind this out. Winner of the Paris Half Marathon earlier this year, but it doesn't always go according to plan. That was a massive PB for the Kenyan. She went inside 68 minutes for the first time. And she's had a couple of bad patches in this race, but she's not looking too bad. Just trying to keep it going, but she really is in no man's land. Well, if you had to make a bet at this stage, it would still be a slightly speculative one, you suggest. You can see Atea back down. She's just drifted out a shot, but she's still in 5th place. And there's Kenya behind her in the distance, so that could be quite significant actually in terms of the team competition. Atea in 5th. I'll try and get some indication as to how big the gap is to Kenya back in 6th place. Still the Japanese athletes Tanaka and Ito in 7th and 8th, pouring on the pressure. Will the Kenyan flag be flying with pride at the end of this race? It could be double gold individually and in the team competition, but the same could equally be said for the Ethiopian team. And there is still no indication as to who is going to take up the reins here and seize the initiative in this battle for prestigious gold. Chiromai took her turn at the front, and that looked as though it may give an indication as to how the tactics were going to unfold, but she's now back in 4th place. Tadese, very experienced Ethiopian, on the shoulder of Kiplagat, quite happy for the smaller Kenyan to do all the work. And Meseret Hailu has got back into the mix as well, having had her bad patches. Tanaka and Ito, Gemma Steele trying to close that gap and drag Carol Jones with her. Ito really lunging for a drink there, just making sure she got hold of some liquid. So too Gemma Steele. And Embet Etea in 5th place needs to keep going and dig deep, because if Pauline Kahenya gets a sniff that the Ethiopian's coming back to her, that could have really important ramifications for the team competition. Less than 10 minutes to go now in this race. Well, you pays your money, you takes your choice. Who is going to come across that line first? All 4 still very much in contention. Pascalia Kiplagat has been determined to take the lead all the way through this race, bar the odd 5 or 10 seconds with Chiromai coming to the front and one of the Ethiopians putting her under pressure. That definitely gives you an indication as to her confidence in this race. As we look at Bonova, a European mountain runner, the Bulgarian just getting a bit of home support here. But at the front, it's all about Kenya and Ethiopia. The Ethiopians, in fact, have only had one individual winner of this race. That was Bahane Adere back in 2002, 10 years ago, so there would be some timeline symmetry if Tadese or Hailu were able to make it 2 titles for them. But Kiplagat also wants a slice of history. She wants to join her Kenyan-born compatriots Tegla Larupe, Lorna Kiplagat, Mary Kaitani and Florence Kiplagat as an illustrious winner of this IAAF World Half Marathon title. Well, tradition tells us that generally in the women's half marathon race at World Championship level, somebody always manages to get away. Only 5 of the previous 19 editions have resulted in a winning margin of less than 10 seconds. But if that is to be the case today, someone is going to have to go and go quite soon, or we could be in for a very dramatic last couple of 100 meters here in the Bulgarian coastal town of Kavarna. There's the gap from Etea in 5th on the left to Kahenya of Kenya in 6th, and Lydia Chiromai, the veteran of the Kenyan team, just allowing a couple of meters to come between her and the lead 3. Emebet Etea really needs to grit her teeth here, because the Ethiopians have a fabulous chance of taking the team gold. Kahenya needs to keep positive thoughts in her head and start driving on towards the athlete in green up ahead of her, Emebet Etea. Kiplagat still leads. Tadese is there. Hailu is there. Lydia Chiromai is trying to hang on. She's not been dropped by this group, but bearing in mind we saw her surge into the lead about 4 or 5 minutes ago, has she gone through a little bit of a bad patch? Is her body asking her questions after so many years at the top of world distance running and cross country? Itea with Kahenya behind her. You can't see Kahenya, but she is there. 16:50 that split, so they have been slowing down. But the times are now almost irrelevant. It is about who takes the last global crown available in the world of athletics and distance running. And Chiromai has definitely been dropped. Good run there by Gemma Steele, coming up onto the shoulder of Mai Ito. Really good run by the British women to close down on the Japanese, and they'll be keeping their fingers crossed that they're still in the mix for the team bronze. Kiplagat, Hailu, Tadese. This is Itea, she's in 5th. Kahenya is behind in 6th place. And Tadese is making her bid, putting Kiplagat under pressure. Hailu hanging on in 3rd. Is she going to turn 4th into 1st, the tall Ethiopian? Kahenya is not too far behind Itea, but they're both very, very tired athletes in 5th and 6th. So with Chiromai being dropped a little bit off this pace, it does look as though the medals will go to Kiplagat, Faisa Tadese and Meseret Hailu. And this is definitely the first time that we have seen Kiplagat coming under pressure. And we have 2 Ethiopians ahead of her now, Tadese and Hailu. Kiplagat in 3rd. And having dictated the pace all the way through this race, she is really going to have to dig deep here to stay in contention and give herself an opportunity of taking this title. And I think she's been broken by the 2 Ethiopians. Wow. Having led the whole way, suddenly, when the questions were asked, Pascalia Kiplagat could find no answer. There is still time, of course, for her to mount a massive comeback, but it would be unlikely. And look at the speed of the 2 Ethiopians, and it's Meseret Hailu turning into the finish ahead of Faisa Tadese. Well, a previous best of 71.18. And this would be an incredible victory for Meseret Hailu if she could hang on here. But can Faisa Tadese mount a comeback? It's going to be Ethiopia 1 and 2, but which order? Faisa Tadese is trying to sprint and close down her compatriot. Hailu's being put under pressure. Can she hang on? I think she can. Meseret Hailu takes the title. Faisa Tadese takes 2nd, a fabulous 1-2 for Ethiopia, and the long-term leader Pascalia Kiplagat comes home for 3rd, just outside 69 minutes. What a race and what a finish, and it's 4th place for Lydia Chiromai. A good run by her in the end. She tried to take the lead and run the sting out of the finish of the younger, quicker girls who finished ahead of her. But what a finish by Meseret Hailu. That was absolutely fantastic. For only the 2nd time Ethiopian women have the champion here. It was Bahane Adere 10 years ago, and here in the sunshine of Kavarna, it's Meseret Hailu. Emebet Itea coming home. She's done well to keep herself going, actually. She's going to take 5th place, just a fraction outside 70 minutes, or is she bang on the clock? 70 on the nose, perhaps, for her in 5th place. So what a day for the Ethiopians, taking the team title, and it will be team silver for the Kenyans. Kavarna coming across the line now, very tired, but that was a good run. So 3 Kenyans and 3 Ethiopians completing the top 6. And what a race to the line we've got between Gemma Steele and Tomomi Tanaka. 7th place is up for grabs here, and this would be a fantastic performance by Gemma Steele, but Tanaka's not finished yet, is she? Both these athletes giving it absolutely everything. It's a cracking finish here. Tanaka won the Yamaguchi half marathon earlier this year, but Gemma Steele had a great run at the Great North Run, and she's going to take the Japanese athlete. What a run by Gemma Steele. That was fantastic. Just outside 71 minutes, but it was very hot and sticky. Tanaka had to settle for 8th place, just behind her. A really good battle between the 2 athletes. Ito coming across the line now in 9th place. She'd run almost all the way with Tanaka, but just dropped off the pace. And a really good performance from Carol Jones as well, coming home to complete the top 10, and she's beaten some really useful athletes. That is a great performance. Inside 72 minutes for Jones. Mockenhaupt of Germany has come home for 11th place. That's a great scout for Jones. Mockenhaupt, a 2:26 marathon runner. That was a couple of years ago. And Kato coming home to complete a great day for the Japanese team. Bow to the finish. And that should wrap up 3rd place in the team competition. That would make 6 bronze medals in the last 7 editions for the team event for the Japanese. Krifchin of the United States coming home. That's a good run for Megan. Won a 10-miler and a 10K at home. Miyauchi and Tamset have been running pretty close together. Good performance from Tamset, the Australian, former World Junior Mountain Running Champion. Just coming home ahead of the Japanese athlete. So the top 15 finishing around about 73 minutes. Renee Kalmer just getting the best of Dariba Godana. The South African was right there at the front, wasn't she? And then as the pace was poured on, she just struggled a little tiny bit. Adriana Nelson, 10th in 2005 in the colours of Romania, but now representing the United States courtesy of her marriage. And Sugihara, 15th in Daegu last year over the 10,000 metres, coming home inside the top 20. And a good run by Karolina Jarzinska. Prisha Chirono just coming home ahead of Susan Partridge. Well, Susan's improved on her performances in the world half in the past. She was 25th in 2005 and 5 minutes off the winning pace. But that's a really good team performance for the British trio, bearing in mind that Gemma Steele and Carol Jones were in the top 10. Oliveras coming across the line, and Shalane Flanagan. So often in these global championships she has managed to get in amongst the East African dominance, but perhaps just a little bit tired, maybe not quite recovered from her exploits in the London Olympic Marathon. It's not a bad time. She's inside 75 minutes, but it has been a very, very long, hard season for the American. She's a spirited woman, and she will come back with more of that, you can be sure, in future seasons. Prieto, the Mexican, 5th in the Pan American Games last year, 3,000 metre steeplechase, so perhaps an indication that her future lies on the roads. Nero from Trinidad. And I think she set a personal best, and that'll be a new national record for the Trinidadian if it's confirmed. Well, that's brilliant. She's the only representative from the Caribbean here. And her previous best was 75.42. I think she set a new national record there. Zhang of China coming home. Won the Zhangzhou Marathon this year. And a tough day behind her for Penina Arusi. All credit to the Kenyan for finishing. She got the bronze in Nanning. She was second in the Paris half earlier this year. She's world class, but clearly found something difficult today, finishing just inside 76 minutes. French national champion over 10,000 metres, Magalia Bernard. It's coming up to the line here. So we've had the first 30 home. And there is competition. Ethiopia take the team title. Kenya have to settle for second. And Japan managed to beat Great Britain for third. United States in fifth overall. A good team performance from them. But for the third time only, Ethiopia are the team champions. 2004, 2008 and 2012. The Olympic years obviously bringing good fortune for them. And a word for the Japanese team, that is the 6th time in the last 7 editions of the Women's World Half Marathon Championships that they've taken a team bronze. It's a staggering record and one of absolute quality. We've had about half the field finishing now. The wind is picking up just a tiny bit. You can see, though, not too much to dissuade these great performances. Confirmation then, Meseret Hailu is the World Half Marathon champion, only the second Ethiopian to take the title. Tadese had silver. The long-term leader, Kiplagat, had to settle for third. Further down the leaderboard, a brilliant 7th place for Gemma Steele with a personal best, getting the better of 2 very spirited Japanese performances in 8th and 9th, and then Carol Jones of Great Britain completing the top 10 with another personal best. Prisha Chirono finishing inside 74 minutes but outside the top 20. And Shalane Flanagan having a tough time. And Tonya Nero from Trinidad did indeed set a national record. That is brilliant. So we've had 40 finishers now. Amaria Ben Amour was 45th in Nanning. So she's managed to do a little better here. Arenas, very tired Mexican, coming across the line. And Helmso from Denmark, second in the Copenhagen Marathon this year, and Copenhagen hosts this event next in the spring of 2014. Christina Kalmer. And another one of the Danish athletes coming up towards the line in a really gritty performance. That's Arenas, the Mexican, is finding it really tough out there. Baumeister, 4th in the Copenhagen half. She's finished just around about the 80-minute mark. If you're a bit of a club runner or an enthusiast, to give you an indication, 80 minutes, they say, is roughly the half marathon equivalent of a sub 3-hour marathon. It's a club runner's target to go sub 3 for the full distance and sub 80 minutes for the half. Still, they're coming home. Cantara trying to close down the Brazilian silver, but won't quite get there. 9th in the Rio half marathon earlier this year. Rosalina Silva maybe just struggling a little bit there. Good strong finish by the Peruvian Cantara. 7th in the South American half marathon championships a couple of years ago. Matosevic, national champion in Croatia over 3,000, 5,000 and 10,000 metres. And that has been a really tough day for the East European athlete. Krasteva, the 32-year-old from Bulgaria. She's going to be well inside her personal best. Hasn't gone inside 73 minutes before, and that's much better. Getting a good round of applause from the home crowd here, gathered in the town centre. And the cameras showing her delight. A race on home soil and a personal best as well. Well, if you're enjoying our morning's distance running from this Bulgarian coastal town, well, don't think that the action has finished just yet, because we have a fascinating men's race to come. The king of half marathon running, Shalane Tadese, trying to recapture the crown he won 4 successive years from 2006 through to 2009. And if he goes through as much pain as some of these women have, he really will have earned his 5th world half marathon title. Still, they're pouring over the finish line. There is absolutely no lack of effort here from these world-class women.
So we are very close to the start of the men's race. In the top list, we can see the 3 of the distance. Tadese from Eritrea.
So, we are now beginning to turn our attention to the men's race, and what a competition this promises to be. Danikova, another one of the Bulgarians, getting a good round of applause as she comes up to the line. So we will wait for most of these runners to make their way across the line before the men's race can begin. But what a moment. What a fabulous achievement for Meseret Hailu. Went through bad patches in that race, but she becomes the 2nd Ethiopian to take the world half marathon title Tadese had the silver, and it was bronze for the long-term leader, Kiplagat. Do stay with us if you're watching these pictures and you very much enjoyed them, because the men's race is just a few moments away and it promises to be every bit as enthralling as that fabulous battle we just witnessed between the might of the Rift Valley. But today, so far, the glory has gone north to Ethiopia rather than south to Kenya. Same course, same distance, same titles up for grabs for the men's race. And we will be bringing that to you very, very shortly. It's a bigger field in the men's race, and all eyes will be on Mr. Half Marathon Shalane Tadese, the world record holder, the championship record holder, the four-time champion, going for an unprecedented 5th crown. What a race we have in prospect. So we're underway. What kind of shape is Shalane Tadese in? And can he regain his crown and reassert his authority on a distance that he has made entirely his own over the last 6 or 7 years? He made his debut in this event 10 years ago in 2002 and finished in 21st position. His second effort took him to 7th, and from then on there was only one position he was interested in, and it was first. And when you look back at the 4 victories he's very much enjoyed in this competition, they've come in all sorts of guises. In Rio, for instance, in 2008, he absolutely decimated the field, running away from them a long way from the finish, and he's also won the close races as well. So he's a man for all occasions and all tactics, Shalane Tadese. But is he in the same kind of shape that took him to those 4 titles? We shall see. And another fascinating element of this story is that of Eliud Kipchoge, world champion of 5,000 metres back in 2003 in Paris, while still a teenager. 2 Olympic medals over the same distance in Athens and in China, and enjoying his first foray onto the roads. Had a scorching half-marathon debut, was 3rd in Lille last month in 59.25. He's in the middle of your picture there, in the familiar green and red and black shorts of Kenya, and he cut a very calm, confident figure at the press conference yesterday. 1 or 2 inquiries as to whether this was a stepping stone to the marathon, and he had a rather wry smile and said, well, yes, if it is, I think I can run under 2:05. So bold talk from Eliud Kipchoge. He finished 7th in the Kenyan trials for the 5 and the 10,000 metres this year, so maybe he was thinking that the raw speed isn't quite there as it was in his earlier years to take him to the world title at 5,000 metres, but a great base from which to express himself on the road. So we shall see whether he manages to challenge the Tadese dominance. All sorts of opportunities and connotations and ramifications here in this field, but a very, very long way to go here. Kipchoge's been joined by Stephen Kibet there, and Kibet in fact is the 7th fastest in history over this distance. He's had 5 half-marathon victories over the last couple of years. A 2:08 marathon runner as well, and a few people think he could really mount a big challenge here if he gets the right kind of race. So a very, very large group coming round the corner for the first time. But it's very, very steady at this stage. A massive group of men. They'll go under the starting line in a moment, but they won't have completed 5k until they do an extra 150-metre loop, and we'll get their 5k split when they come back under the start line in a little while. So 14:10 is, roughly speaking, 60 minutes on the nose, so just outside that. About 14:20, so they're running just outside the hour mark. But it's very comfortable for most of them at this stage.
As you can see, we have a huge group of athletes, so it's a promising run as well.
Huge group. An awful long way to go before we start thinking about who might possibly make a move. We've had our fleeting man off the front. That was Yon Kusi of Peru. And look at Zerzane Tadese. I was watching for him in that group and couldn't spot him because there were so many running so close together. And Zerzane Tadese, the 4-time World Half Marathon champion, has hit the front, and it looks as though he's not there to stretch his legs. He is there to make a point. Wow. What a declaration of intent by the 4-time World Half Marathon champion. Glance at one or two of the Bulgarians in the field. A lot of the Eritreans working together. Zerzane Tadese sat in the pack, looks fairly comfortable, and clearly decided that a pace of just outside 60 minutes wasn't good enough for him, that he was going to the front, and it would be him to set the agenda on the early stages of this second lap. Well, he's won this title all sorts of ways. He's done it with a sprint finish. He's done it from a gradual wind-up. And the team competition, well, it's where it should be at the moment because they're running in such a large group. It could go any one of 4 ways. Smokoka from South Africa there. 13th in Daegu over the 10,000 metres. But what a confident little injection of pace that was from Zerzane Tadese. And the whole dynamic of that lead group has changed. Where they were 8, 9, 10 abreast, packed together very tightly, they're now strung out a little bit. And those just a tiny bit further back down the field have really been made to feel the force of Tadese's injection of pace. He's got a very distinctive style, Zerzane Tadese. Eliud Kipchoge, though, is right on his shoulder, and on his inside, the taller figure, Philemon Lemo. So this really could be gearing up to be quite an interesting race. And look how quickly that group has been whittled down. You've got Tadese leading, Jackson Kiprot, the Ugandan, is the only other nationality up there apart from the Kenyans. So we have a group of 6 now with a little bit of a gap going back to the rest of the field. No Ethiopians up there. So there is Tadese on the left of your picture. The world record holder, the 4-time world half marathon champion. And he really isn't hanging around there at all. Philemon Lemo on the right, a very different figure and a very different style, loping his way to the front. And Eliud Kipchoge, in what is only his second outing over the half marathon, but how good was he in his first? 59.25 he ran in Lille, finished 3rd on that occasion, and you suspect he is going to have to go through a higher pain barrier if he is to defeat Shalane Tadese here. It is getting very, very warm here in Kavarna. Local time, it's coming up to 11:30, so we're not too far away from the warmest part of the day. And there is still an awful lot of running left in this race. 40 minutes or so to go. Well, the real old school die-hard fans of distance running will be loving this. What a way to do. Go to the front after 20 minutes and absolutely grind it out, taking no prisoners along the way in brutally hot conditions against a world-class field. And you saw Lemo there sharing a drink with Tadese, and that's brilliant to see. That happened in the women's race with one of the Ethiopians sharing a drink with one of the leading contenders from Kenya. A fabulous show of respect and sportsmanship. The rivalry is intense, especially between those 3 countries, but that is brilliant to see them sharing around the liquid and also showing that they're respecting the severity of the conditions. It's not absolutely boiling, but it is very, very warm here, and at this kind of pace it can really take its toll. So Philemon Lemo is leading, Shalane Tadese is 2nd, and Eliud Kipchoge in 3rd. And the rest of the field are going to have to run their own race because it's all East African out front. Pius Kirop is the athlete in 4th place, the fast improving youngster who was 4th in the Berlin half marathon. No Ethiopians up there in that lead group. Jackson Kiprot, the Ugandan, 61.5 minutes at altitude in Kampala. Be interesting to see if he can work with the 2 Kenyans there he's running alongside and get himself a quicker personal best.
He was 25 years old back then in Udine.
As you can see there are a fair number of shady sections on this course as well, but they do also spend a reasonable amount of time in direct sunlight. Kipchoge's just running a little way back from Tadese and Lemo, maybe just giving himself the option of conserving his energy a bit, because obviously this is only his 2nd foray into the world of half marathon running, and Tadese is hugely experienced, but Lemo has also produced some really good performances over this distance. So Kipchoge is showing the experience that you would expect from someone who first won a global title 9 years ago, and he's just letting these 2 run their own race a little bit. Of course, he'll try not to let them get too far ahead, but he is still within sight of the early leaders. Heat haze on the roads give you the indication of the Rising temperature. Well, if he is going to do it, he's going to do it the hard way, isn't he? It's impossible to undersell what a big name Tadese is back in Eritrea. He secured the country's first Olympic medal when he got the bronze behind Kenenisa Bekele in Athens 8 years ago. And everywhere he goes where there's an expatriated community of Eritreans, he is heralded like a king. When he ran in the Great Edinburgh Cross Country a few years ago, he almost missed the start because he was signing so many autographs in the city centre. So he is a man who has inspired a great deal in his compatriots. And somewhere, somehow, there will be an awful lot of people gathered round radios and television all across his home country, willing on their biggest sporting hero to once again recapture the crown in a race that he has dominated so brilliantly over the last few years. Of all these great champions we've talked about, Stefano Boldini, Khalid Skar, Haile Gebrselassie, only Paul Tergat has won this race more than once. He had 2 titles in 1998 and 1999. And this man in the centre of your picture, just to the left of the buggy, has 4. That tells you just how good he is over this distance. I suppose the only puzzling element of Zerzené Tadese's CV, if you like, is that he hasn't as of yet managed to translate his fabulous half marathon form to the full 26.2. He's dropped out of a couple of marathons. He's completed the London twice. His best time is 2:0:10, but bearing in mind that the world record is under 58:30, you would have thought that he would be able to translate that half marathon speed into a much quicker performance over the full marathon distance. Well, it may be there's more to come from him over the full distance, or it could be that this is just the distance at which he feels most comfortable and at which he excels. And he's certainly doing so today in great style thus far. There's Chimza. And he has put in an injection of pace that is really putting even the best right under pressure here. Limo is in second place, and he was the one who bravely went with Tadese. Now, if Tadese can keep the pace going, well, I just wonder whether Limo might end up suffering in the closing stages for going too hard and trying to stay with Tadese. Such a brave way to try and win a half marathon. 13.1 miles. He's going to be finishing in baking heat. Well, the questions were asked. Did he arrive at this race in the same kind of form that took him to the world record and to those 4 great titles? And so far, you've got to say the answer to that question is yes. He won his 3rd Lisbon half marathon back in March. Not as quick as his 2 previous times in Portugal, but my goodness me, he's absolutely tearing this field to pieces at the moment. Philemon Limo, the only man who made any attempt to try and go with the early pace. 2nd place for him at the moment. So Tadese coming round to what will be the finish in 2 laps' time. And you really do get an impression that he is virtually sprinting here by any normal runner's standards. This is absolutely incredible. And it will be fascinating to see what the 5K split is, because he has undoubtedly raised the pace. Limo is in 2nd place. Kirop is in 3rd. Kipchoge alongside Mwangangi in 4th and 5th, so maybe Eliud Kipchoge's just struggling by that injection of pace, and Tadese will certainly enjoy what he's seeing as he comes back towards the 10k point, because he knows that his injection of pace is really hurting the Kenyans. 13:44 for the second 5k. That is so quick. Wow. Well, that is absolutely amazing. He has wound it up here in fine style, and he's running inside the hour mark here. 13:44 for 5k. Well, for some nations, that would get you into their international track team over 5,000 metres. That is absolutely extraordinary. Well, no wonder the rest of the field have been left trailing in his wake. That is a remarkable split. So he's gone through 10k in 28:05. And he is only, to put that into context, he is only 12 seconds off the time he went through 10k in when he set his world record a few years ago in Lisbon. That was absolutely extraordinary. Well, surely it would be too greedy to expect him to produce a world record here towards the end of what has been a marvellous year for athletics and distance running. But my goodness me, Zerxane Tadese is absolutely storming his way around this course at the moment. The team title at the moment belonging to Kenya, with Eritrea once again in second and Ethiopia in the mix, with Uganda very close behind them actually in 4th place in this team competition. But this is turning out to be an extraordinary demonstration of distance running. His biggest winning margin came back in Rio, when he won by an extraordinary 1 minute 58 seconds. He came home just under the hour. It was obviously very warm in Rio. And the second place athlete was Patrick Macau, the brilliant marathon runner, who finished almost 2 minutes behind him. Well, I spoke to Eliud Kipchoge yesterday and he said, we're going to run as Kenyans, and he had a little smile and an indication that maybe by working together they might be able to in some way stifle the talent of Zerxane Tadese, but they haven't had a chance. 28:05 at 10k. Wow. So the great champion is definitely finding it tough here. So too Philemon Lemo. Well, that's an indication as to how tough the pace was, because Lemo was the only athlete to go with Zerxane Tadese on that second lap of 5k, and whether he finishes the race or not, I'm not sure, but he's been reduced to a walk. Now, has Tadese Chimza of Ethiopia got himself close enough to pull off an unbelievable comeback? It's hard to tell from this angle. Tadese, certainly the last time we had an opportunity to get a checkpoint, had about a half-minute cushion, and it may well be that he is still way out front, but Chimza is definitely having a good second half of the race. There he is, the big, tall, powerful figure from Ethiopia, and that still looks like a sizable margin, doesn't it? If we get to see 56.44, he's gone round there in, so if we get to see Chimza rounding, we'll get an idea as to how big the lead is. There is no doubt Tadese is hurting, but on this evidence, so is the rest of the field. He's getting tired, he's getting sore, and he will certainly be getting a little bit dehydrated, but he's closing in on a 5th title here. And I think I just saw Chimza running through the back of shot, so the lead is still well over half a minute. So Tadese is going to, injury notwithstanding, enjoy a glorious run into the finish here in Bulgaria. They've enjoyed hosting this championship, the Bulgarian Athletics Federation. The last time they had a global meeting here was the 3rd edition of the World Junior Track Championships, which was back in 1990. So they've waited 22 years to see a global event on home soil, and they've been rewarded here in fine style by 2 brilliant races. A great sprint to the line from the 2 Ethiopians in the women's race, and a display of absolute dominance from an Eritrean who has just been absolutely imperious over this distance, notwithstanding, of course, that slight hiccup 2 years ago when he was carrying that calf injury. Almost ran the race in Nanning on one leg and only lost by 4 seconds. Very soon, Shalane Tadese will turn the corner and head into the finishing straight for the last time. And he will see nothing ahead of him except the glory of the finish line awaiting. He has slowed. It won't be as quick as some of his other victories. Well, the time may be different, but the colour of the medal will be the same. Victorious in 2006, 2007, in Rio in 2008, and in Birmingham in Great Britain in 2009. And here on Bulgarian soil, he is about to do it again. He'll finish outside the hour mark, but in these conditions it really doesn't matter. And now he rounds the corner for the very last time. It's the glory run into the finish for Shalane Tadese. There is absolutely no doubt we are watching the greatest half marathon runner in history, and he allows himself a little wag of the finger. The world record holder, the 4-time champion who had to settle for silver 2 years ago, is regaining the title he loves so much, and in fine style. For the 5th time, Eritrea's Shalane Tadese is the world half marathon champion. A man of absolute class. And that was a performance to underline his dominance. Tadese Chimza is going to come home in 2nd place. He was looking good as they started the last lap. A big, powerful performer, a 2:05 man over the marathon. And this is an excellent performance, inside 61 minutes, and he is the silver medalist. John Mwangangi, 2nd in Lisbon behind Shalane Tadese earlier this year, finishes 3rd behind him, pretty much bang on 61 minutes. A brilliant bronze for him. And Piers Kirop, who went with the pace and tried to stay with Shalane Tadese, has to settle for 4th. Well, what a day it's been here in the blistering sunshine of the Bulgarian coastal town. For the 5th time, Shalane Tadese is the world half marathon champion. Tadese Chimza with a personal best takes silver, and Mwangangi took 3rd. Good performances from the Eritreans to make sure they finished in the top 10 and get that all-important team silver behind the Kenyans. Personal best for the Rwandan down in 22nd place, just outside 64 minutes. A new national record for Aliviev from Azerbaijan. And personal bests splattered right the way through this field, including Hosni, the Tunisian, who finished in 40th. Well, it's a familiar looking team result. The 14th gold medal in this event for the Kenyans in the team competition. Eritrea, a 7th successive silver, and Ethiopia take their 5th bronze in the last 6 years. United States were 4th. The wag of the finger, the swagger in the stride. The greatest half marathon runner in history is back on top, exactly where he believes he belongs. Shalane Tadese just outside 60 minutes, the time irrelevant, the performance brilliant.